One Vindolanda tablet records a date and a finding. The date is the 18th of May, between 92 and 97 of the Common Era. The document is a routine strength report for the First Cohort of Tungrorum. The cohort was garrisoned at Vindolanda, on the Stanigate Road in northern Britain. The roll listed 752 men. On that day, 296 were at the fort, 456 were elsewhere. The cohort was not standing at a wall. It was distributed across the frontier zone. Some men were at neighbouring forts. Others were at the provincial capital. Others were on the road. The report is administrative routine. It is also evidence of how this frontier worked. This is one of more than 750 such documents recovered at Vindolanda. The Vindolanda tablets have been recovered since 1973, under the direction of Robin Burley. The corpus now exceeds 750 published documents. 3 volumes of Tabulae Vindolandenses have appeared in 1983, 1994, and 2003. Publication continues. The documents are ink on thin wood. Anaerobic waterlogging in the fort's rubbish layers preserved them. Parchment-equivalent materials at most other Roman sites did not survive. The Vindolanda corpus is therefore unusual evidence. It is a Roman provincial archive recovered intact rather than reconstructed from quotation. The corpus is not a single voice. It is hundreds of clerks, officers, civilian suppliers, and household members writing across 2 generations. The documents include supply records, military rosters, accounts, civilian military transactions, and personal correspondence. Prosopographic cross-checks across tablets confirm names, units, and assignments. The administrative archive is verified. The strength report at the center of this episode is unremarkable in its kind. Such documents were produced as administrative routine across the Empire's frontier garrisons. The form was standard. The numbers were what they were. Its forensic value comes from its banality. We are not reading a polemic. We are reading what the system itself recorded on a working day about its own dispositions. The interpretive framework belongs to Charles Whittaker. His 1994 book Frontiers of the Roman Empire argues a specific thesis. The Roman limes was a zone of contact and exchange, not a line of military demarcation. Whittaker reads the wall as administrative infrastructure overlaid on integrated provincial barbarian economies. The frontier created its own economy, drawing population and resources to itself. This is now the dominant reading. It was not always. David Breeze, in earlier work, treated the limes primarily as a defensive military line. The Burley scholarly tradition leaned similarly. The dispute is real and not fully closed. This episode adopts Whittaker's reading, against the older defensive line interpretation. What the report records, the archaeology beneath it explains. The frontier organized a zone of mutual economic and demographic integration. The wall's function was administrative, not exclusionary. The strength report begins the cause chain. Of 752 men, only 296 stood at the home fort. That is not a deployment failure, it is a deployment pattern. A unit dispersed across multiple sites cannot be supplied from a single distant base. The dispersed unit must be supplied where it stands. Local procurement followed. Vindolanda's accounts record purchases of grain, beer, hides, and slave purchases from civilian suppliers. The fort bought from local markets because it had no alternative at that distance. The supply lines that mattered ran outward from the fort, not back to Italy. Procurement built civilian relationships. Local suppliers settled near the fort to be near the demand. Vici, civilian settlements attached to garrisons, grew up around the limes forts. They are visible at Saalburg, at Exzell, at Zugmantel. The Reichslimskommission survey, directed by Ernst Fabricius from 1892, documented them comprehensively. Heinrich Jacobi reconstructed Saalburg between 1898 and 1907. The Fort plus Vicus form is what he preserved. Settlement and commerce produced shared material culture. Late Roman terra sigillata, the red glazed tableware of the empire, has been recovered from Germanic burials beyond the Rhine. Germanic-style brooches appear in late Roman frontier cemeteries. Coin hoards beyond the limes contain up-to-date imperial issues, struck at mints the hoarders had never seen. Hans Werner Goetz has documented this barbarian Roman material exchange across the late frontier zone. Peter Wells, in The Barbarians Speak, reads the cross-frontier material record as evidence of integration. By the late Empire, populations on either side were sortable as Roman or barbarian on administrative grounds alone. The two sides of the line were not two sides. The Marcomannic Wars stress-tested the integration. Marcus Aurelius fought across the Danube from 166 to 180 of the Common Era. The wars produced military disruption. They did not undo the economic and material structure beneath the disruption. Roman material continues into Germanic territory after the wars. Civilian military commerce resumes within years. The formal collapse came in stages. The Limes Rieticus was withdrawn after the Alemannic raids of 259 and 260. That withdrawal recognized a frontier already permeable. The final western frontier collapse came 2 centuries later. The troop withdrawals from 401 to 407 coincided with the Rhine crossing of 406. The formal collapse followed a structural integration that had been the frontier's actual condition for 2 centuries. Whittaker's reading is the diagnosis the archaeology supports. The wall was administrative infrastructure for a permeable zone, not the closure of one. The collapse was the visible event. The membrane was the long fact. The pattern is not Roman alone. Han China engineered its own frontier line. Under Emperor Wu, who reigned from 141 to 87 before the Common Era, the wall was extended. Han Great Wall extensions reached roughly 6,000 kilometers. The wall reached into the Hexi corridor in modern Gansu. The Han state built the wall and worked through it. The Hekin framework was established after the Battle of Baideng in 200 before the Common Era. It sent silk, grain and gold to the Zhongnu Confederation as tribute. Frontier markets, Guanxi, operated at strategic passes including Zhangjiakou and the Datong Pass. Han imported horses. Han exported silk. Slaves and hostages crossed in both directions. The material evidence confirms the pattern. The Noyon-Ul tomb complex in Mongolia was excavated by Pyotr Kozlov in 1924 and 1925. It contained Han-style lacquerware, silk fragments and bronze mirrors recovered from Zhongnu burials. Han period slips from Juyan and Dunhuang record frontier administration in detail. They were recovered in expeditions from 1907 onward. Thomas Barfield, in his 1989 book The Perilous Frontier, reads this material as evidence of integration. The wall did not separate the populations on either side, it administered them. Sasanian Persia repeated the form. Khusraw I reigned from 531 to 579 of the Common Era. He expanded a Caucasus frontier system already underway. Derbent, the closed gate, held stone walls extending from the Caspian Sea into the mountains. The citadel of Narinkala anchored the system. The Gorgan Wall, sometimes called the Red Snake, runs 195 kilometers across northeastern Iran. 30-plus forts and a parallel canal system are part of the same complex. Eberhard Sauer's excavation campaign ran from 2005 to 2009. It dated the Gorgan Wall's construction to the 5th and 6th centuries of the Common Era. Earlier attributions to Achaemenid or Parthian patrons had been mistaken. Through the Caucasus passes moved finished silk, raw silk and slaves between Sasanian and Roman markets. The trade is documented across the Sasanian period. Iberia, Lazica and Albania served as buffer kingdoms between the empires. The walls did not close the frontier, they administered it. 3 states, 3 frontiers, the same form. What does this make the Limes? The frontier was a membrane, not a wall. The wall was administrative infrastructure for a zone the empire already inhabited on both sides. From the late 1st century onward, the supply accounts recorded it. The material culture recorded it. The dispersal of every cohort recorded it. The strength report from Vindolanda recorded it on a single day in May. For 200 years the data accumulated. The state had the documents. The state did not have the synthesis. The frontier the empire defended was not the frontier the empire had. The Rhine froze in 406. The legions had been called south already. The failure that arrived was the visible one. The membrane was the long fact beneath it. The wall organized the zone. It did not seal it. Subscribe to Omen History. New pattern episodes Monday through Saturday. Forensic files every Sunday.